All right, we're going to take a big leap here, and we're going to Fuddify some text. So, from Elmer Fudd from the oh boy, Looney Tunes, always kind of a way of speaking. And so I want to turn some text and make it so that it sounds like how he talks when we're doing this. Now, this is a big step. I'm going to do the HTML first part of this because I also want to include that part as well. So in our body, I'm just going to do a heading 1. I'm not going to play around with this too much, but I'm going to call this Fuddify text, and then close that. And then I'll have a paragraph. I'll just tell the user what it's doing. So this program will take some text, text, and convert it to Elmer Fudd speech by changing all R's and L's to W's. There we go. Okay, so now I've told the user what's actually happening here. The next thing is I want to just get them to enter some text. So we'll do an H2. Enter text. Close that heading off. And then I'm going to have an input. So we'll do input. I'm going to give it an ID of user text. And then I want another heading. So H2, at some point I'm going to have to see what this looks like. Fuddified text. So after this, it'll tell the person what their new text looks like. So H2. Let's just see how this runs. Okay, yep. Program looks good. Again, I'm not too worried about CSS and how this looks. Just as long as it's clear what's actually happening. Did I tell them to enter the text yet? Yes. Fuddified, yes. And then we just need some empty paragraph happening here. So paragraph, empty paragraph. Should give that an ID. I don't want to make it too hard. I'm going to put output. I could call this like Fuddify text or something. But I'm just going to say output makes my life a little easier. Could put a button here. But I'm going to use our change text. Because I think it's a little bit better. A little faster in this case. So I'm going to hit run. Should all work. All right. For our script then, what are we going to do there? So I've got a few things that have to happen. I want to make the input box have a event listener. So I'm going to do document dot get element by ID. I think I called it user input. Just make sure I did. User input. And we want to add event listener. Now I'm going to use the change one. So every time it changes, it's going to run a function. And so in our case, it's going to run our Fuddify text function. Now we actually are going to need kind of, I don't want to say a dummy one, but we're going to need, no, we don't even need that actually. No, we can just run it right away. We'll call it user text. Let's try to decide the fastest way I can do this without using a button. So I'm going to call, these are my event functions or event listener. And so now whatever I type in here, I want it to turn that Fuddify it. Okay, so how do I do that? So this is my Fuddify function. And what do I call it? User text. We're not going to take any parameters here because we're actually going to take the information inside the function. So I'm going to do a document.get element by ID. Again, I'm going to use that user input ID. And what I want to take from that is I want to take the value of it. So whatever's inside of there. Now I need to store that somewhere. And I'm just going to store it as let input equal. So at this point, we should check to make sure all of this is actually working. So I'm going to do a console.log at that point and just say, hey, can you show me what the input is? And make sure it's working properly. Cannot read property, add event listener. Add event 237. Let's make sure list. Not sure what's going on here. Why is it angry? Must have spelled something incorrectly, or I didn't put a period. Let's see, user input. Oh, user text. There's the problem. Okay, so that's why it's saying null. So that means that also has to be text. That's why you don't get too far into it. If REPL wants to run now. So now if I hit ER, there we go, perfect. Now I don't want it just to be whatever console logging it. I might as well just put it to the output right away. So I'm going to do a document, again, .get element by ID. And that ID is, let's make sure we do this correctly this time, it's output. And what I want to do is I want to change the inner HTML to equal the input. And let's just make sure that would work. So basically it's going to take this and put it down here. So let's just make sure. Yes, perfect. Now that's actually one of the last things I want to do to this. I have to do some kind of process in the middle of this. I'm going to just say this is the process of Fuddifying. So my first step is I'm going to take that user input and I'm actually going to break it apart into an array. So I'm going to do a let text array. And I'm going to do a split. So I'm going to go input dot split. And I'm going to split it based on every single word or letter, sorry. Because what I want to do is I want to change the R's and the L's. Okay, so we got input.split. It would be probably nice. So it's actually going to be the text array, not the input that we're going to be putting out here. So let's just change text array and see if it actually splits it for us. So if I type in ER, you can see it's now split by commas. Perfect. So far, so good. Now after we have split it, what do we want to do? Well, we're going to have to go and check every single thing in that array. So we're going to go let I equals 0. And I want to go and check every single element of the array. So I need it to be less than the text array dot length. That's going to get us every single one. And what do I want to do? I want to see if there is any R's or L's. So those are the first two things. Now I can do that all in one statement. So we'll say if text array, and that element of the text array is equal to either R. Now I'm going to do this in one shot, so I'm going to say or the text array, and again that same element, oops, is equal to, I think I said it was L was the other one I want to change? Yeah, L. Then I want something to happen. So we're going to go through each one of these. It's been split out, you can see. So now we can actually go and see every single value or character or letter. Now if it's R or L, I want to change it. I want that element to now become W. And I think for now, let's just see if that works properly. Now everything is still inside text array at this point. So if I go put, I need to make sure I get those letters. So we'll do QWER. So the R should change to W. Perfect. Let's also put an L in there to make sure that one works. It also changes to W. Nothing else should change. So only if it's R, there's a couple R's there, but nothing else changes. Perfect. Now what if the person types in a capital? So if I type in capital L, it's still going to be L. So we also have to deal with that. So I'll do another if statement. It's actually very similar to this. So I'm just going to copy and paste it. The big difference here is if that element is a capital R or if that element is a capital L, I want it to be a capital W. So let's just see how that looks. So now if I tell laughing, this should turn into a capital W. And that says waffing. Perfect. So already we're in a good spot, but I don't want these commas here anymore. So now I have to get rid of all of that stuff. And I'm going to do that by putting this actually into a new variable. So I'm going to do a let output text. So I'm going to take this array. So this array is this right here. We're seeing when it says laughing or waffing. I want to join everything back up together. Wherever there's no space, I want it to join back up together. So I'm going to go dot join. And I can choose, just like split, I can choose where to join it. Here I'm going to choose to join it at every character. If I go back here and put a space, you can see the space is actually its own little, has its own element, which is good. So we're going to join them. So we're going to basically get rid of all these commas. It's just going to be all one string now. So now instead of text array, I'm now actually going to go back to our output text. All right, let's see if we've gone all full circle. So I should say laughing, laughing out loud. Do a small one there. See, it says laughing out loud. Perfect. And so now it's Elmer Fudded the text. Now you could type in as much as you want there, and it should keep on doing it forever.